How you doing, folks? I hope the sun is shining wherever you are, and if it's not shining on the outside, I absolutely hope that it's shining on the inside. Or if it's nighttime, hope the moon is nice and bright, because we're certainly about to bring some more shine your way. Appreciate you all always being here, especially for Mental Flight School, and just having intentional conversations about mindset, growth, and how we can be better versions of ourselves, from yesterday to today and beyond. And you know me, I don't play any games. All right, only the best for the best, and I'm certainly happy to have one of the best with me right now. So without further ado, let me give this person the introduction that they beyond deserve, and words still can't describe even after you hear all of them right now. So Hazel Ortega is a leading expert and internationally recognized speaker who specializes in vocational rehabilitation for injured workers. She has worked alongside the California Labor and Workforce Development Agency and represented her chapter of the Entrepreneurs Organization before the United Nations as an advocate for substantive change, both in her local community and around the world. Ms. Ortega has spoken nationally and internationally for more than 60 prestigious audiences, including the California Applicant Attorney Association, Action Coach Worldwide, Dream Business Academy, Women's Business Momentum Center, National Hispanic Association, and the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Agents. Plays no games right here. Hazel shares her journey and guides her audiences through the formula she discovered. It's the exact steps she walks her audiences through each and every time to help them get on the other side of fear to master miracles in her life. And now she helps others do the same. Wherever you are, make sure you clap your hands and stomp your feet for Hazel Ortega. Hazel, how you doing? How you doing?
Oh, that's fantastic, Stan. I feel so great already.
Appreciate you. We're starting off on the right foot. And you're on the West Coast, correct?
Yes, sunny California.
I pain myself when I hear that, but I'm glad that you're enjoying the weather, and you are just making it in town from where are you just coming from again?
Mexico City.
Mexico City. How was the trip?
It was amazing. We went to Teotihuacan, which are pyramids in Mexico City.
Now, I think I saw you mention that you wanted to climb and make sure did you get an opportunity to do that?
Unfortunately, they didn't let us climb. They did tell us that we could come back after 6 o'clock and get a special tour.
Okay.
But we didn't have time for that. We got there early, and we weren't going to wait around. But it was magnificent, and adding to that would have been just extra. It was already really quite spectacular.
That's awesome. Congratulations on that trip. And I know you've been busy moving and shaking, and I saw you were also at a retreat with Dr. Joe Dispenza, if I saw that correctly. How was that experience? What was it like? Just go ahead, just tell me everything that's on your mind and your heart. What was that like?
It was something just out of this world. It was a meditation retreat, okay. And I had never meditated longer than 20 minutes. And I also have it that I don't know how to meditate. So I wouldn't call myself like a professional person that meditates like that. I don't say that's my practice. It was too shameful for 20 minutes, right?
Right.
But I get invited by, people that I know and that I look up to, and I love them and their way of being. And so I want to be in that space, and I accepted the invitation, not knowing who Joe Dispenza was. And when I get there, we end up meditating 6 hours or more per day.
I'm sorry?
6 hours or more per day.
I'm definitely not a real meditator at all. What was that like? What did that feel like? I know there's so many different words in the experience, but what was that like?
It was a spiritual experience for sure. And now that I'm back, I've been continuing to meditate over an hour and a half minimum, and also doing different types of like frequency practices to draw to you what you want and get into like a really high frequency. Joe Dispenza is pretty amazing. He lets you get really present to the divine inside you, and everything that you need is inside of you. And if you believe that, then you can create anything in the outside world, right? And it really aligns with what I talk about with miracles and, what I made happen in my own life. So when I went there, I wrote the book on what happened in my life. And when I went to Joe Dispenza, he explained the science behind what happened in my life. It was remarkable. I love it, and I recommend it to anybody. And if you can't make it to his retreats, read his books, listen to his meditations. It will change your life, and it has mine.
Congratulations. When I first, a few years back, ran into his book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, How to Lose Your Mind and Create a New One, I've not been the same. It kind of just, everything you just said, you said it beautifully. So thank you for sharing that experience of being so transparent. Now let's talk about you. And for the folks who don't know, and I know if you saw you online or on social media, you'd be like, whoa, this person has definitely had it all together their entire life. They're perfect. So yeah, but they would be misunderstood, correct? I know you have your book. We're certainly going to talk about miracles, but also, from bounce checks to private jets. Let's hop into that. From bounce check to private, what does that mean to you? Where did that title come from?
The title literally came from a friend of mine who has known me for many years in business. She does my HR, my human resources. And I blew up my business and became #1 in California. And I hired her full time and got her really busy. And she said, to think that I knew you when you bounced checks and now you're in private jets. That sounded really good. Say that again. And then this needs to be the title of the book.
Oh, that's amazing. So if you don't mind, what have been some difficult points? Because obviously it's not always been sunshine and rainbows, if you will. There were some difficult times where those checks were bouncing. So let's say, what were some difficult times and how did you rise above the noise of what you were going through?
There were difficult times, but that's not why I was bouncing checks. I was bouncing checks because I had no financial literacy. I didn't know how to handle my money. I didn't know how to budget. And so I spent all of it. And I spent all of it even before I had it in the bank. So if I had a direct deposit from my job on Friday, by Wednesday, I was writing checks. And then when that money went into the account, it paid for those checks. But I was like, trying to be lucky and hopefully it goes, I don't get an overdraft fee.
Yeah.
So that's what happened there. You don't have to bounce checks. That was not my position. I always could get by. I was barely getting by just by the skin of my teeth. But some of the adversities and things that I've been through, I grew up in a poor neighborhood. By the time I was born, my parents were separated. My mom married and divorced many times while I was a kid. And each time it was a heartbreak for me that my dad was leaving. And my mom didn't explain to me what was really happening. And so kids tend to internalize that and I believe that it was my fault. And I wasn't worthy of him coming back, and then I wasn't lovable. And then that manifested itself as an adult person dating and running amok. I feel sorry for all the boyfriends I had. Yeah, I was so afraid to get hurt that I would hurt others. Right. If you love me, but you could leave me. So therefore, I'm going to leave you before you leave me. It made no kind of sense. In retrospect, I'm just like, I'm so sorry, everybody. And also growing up in downtown LA with all the deadliest gangs that you can think of.
Seen all kind of stuff. I know that there's some history there, but there's a lot going on in LA that some people don't even understand, especially, what you had to experience.
Yeah. So I grew up with this infamous gang that is world known. It's called Mara Salvatrucha. It's the deadliest gang from El Salvador. And they were really hot here in the 80s. And that's when I was about 9 years old till I was about 16 years old. they were fighting. There were gang wars in my neighborhood, and I saw people die. My best friend was killed when I was 12 years old. My cousin was killed also in a drive-by shooting. My other cousin was killed by the police in a case of a mistaken identity, but he did look like a gang member. And so the cops, thought he was somebody that had just robbed a supermarket, and it wasn't him. He just happened to be in the wrong place, but he saw the police and ran.
No.
So, that was a really sad ending. And, in the end, both my parents spent decades in jail. My dad was a heroin addict all his life until the day he died. And my mom shot and killed her boyfriend in a domestic violence dispute. And these are the types of things that were like,
yeah,
it was no surprise. It was like, I saw a lot of this, not just it happened in my life, but I also saw it happening to people around me. And it wasn't like, poor me, somebody come and save me. I just thought like that was life. And
I saved myself. I'm going to do what it takes to survive and make sure that no one does the same to me. Would you say that kind of created a hard shell around you for that period in your life, or throughout those years?
I was a porcupine, okay? I had the hard shell and I had the bricks. Like, no one get near me. Yeah, and so that was like my life. Like, it occurred to me that I always had to fight for everything, and that people were always wanting to take something from you. And of course, you love me, but you could leave me. And that was a really hard life to live. Yeah. And it was all subconscious. I didn't know I was doing this until now that I know better, right? You know better, you do better.
For sure. I know there are probably a couple different times, and it probably just happens, right? But when was a moment where you were like, how did it happen where you begin to see like there's better for me? Like this isn't the end of my story. Here's the beginning of a new one.
It's really hard to imagine your life to be different. What ended up happening was I created a vision for my life of what I wanted it to look like. And I didn't believe that it could look any different, but I was prompted by a mentor. They asked me, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I couldn't think of anything that was different than the current moment. I used to live Groundhog Day, like every day looked like the next day. I was not trying to improve myself. I was not trying to fix my life. I thought this was life, and I didn't know any better, right? But I was prompted, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? And I couldn't come up with anything. And so I got stuck. And then that's the moment that changed my life, because I said, well, if I believe in God and I believe in miracles, then what is possible? So when it was just left up to me, I didn't know myself to be loving, successful, worthy. I didn't know myself to be this at all. So therefore I had no vision, right? Anything different. I knew I could have more of the same, but I didn't have a vision for something better until I asked myself, and I put my faith in miracles, that I was able to create a vision for my life. And that's the key to everything. And that's when I created a relationship with my sisters that looked like we were in heaven. When I created that vision, I was fist fighting with my sisters.
Really? While you were creating this vision of where you wanted to be, things were not going well between them.
No, they were the worst. The worst. Everything you could think of in my life was like the worst. I was fist fighting. I was a psychologist already. I was fist fighting with my sisters. At 36 years old, I was divorced. I had many breakups and suffering over love, and suffering just in all areas of my life. I was bouncing checks. I had never saved any money at that point. 36 years old, I had never saved any money. And everything was hard. It was a struggle. And I never had dreams. I didn't dream. And if I did dream, they were kind of dreams that were within my means. So I would never dream that I could get along with a sister because I always thought that that was no chance. You know, or my limiting beliefs about it, right? Like, oh, my sister is this way and she'll never change. And so therefore we'll never get along, you know? And so I never had a dream about getting along with my sisters and having a life that looked like we were in heaven together. Never, until I did that exercise. And once I saw my future, I couldn't unsee it. Therefore, whenever I'm with my sisters, and I have 4 sisters, Latinas, okay? You know, Stan.
Wow. Okay.
5 girls.
5 girls. Yeah, I know that's always easy. Not so much, right? So did they know that you were kind of creating this vision for you all's relationship? Did they have any idea that that was going on? Do they now?
They didn't know that I created the vision. Honestly, it wasn't like very intentional. I did it, you know, in the moment, and then I put away my drawing. I drew it. I drew the vision, right? And I put away this drawing and I went about my life. But then I did go to a personal development seminar. And since I already was envisioning that I was going to work on my life, I did call my sisters one by one and told them that I was working on myself. And that one of the things that I wanted to do was improve our relationship. And that was very empowering for me and for them to know that they're important to me, and then I wanted to do that. And when I called them, they were like, "What? You're doing what? Stop! Get out of there! Leave! We're fine. Don't change anything."
Yeah.
Because you know, even though it's painful, familiarity is what we crave. Our brain craves familiarity. So you can stay in depression, you can stay broke, you can stay alone and sad, and you're fine, versus taking a chance, throwing your hat in the ring for a new life because you want to be in the familiar. And these are like subconscious things that I learned are part of all of us. All of us have this subconscious mind that it doesn't make any sense, but it hangs on to all the negative emotions that we have. And our job is to hack that system and change that. And so that's exactly what I did by verbalizing to my sisters, I want to be different with you. I want us to love each other. And they're like, we're fine. We love each other. We're fine. We love fighting. We love that, you know. It was unacceptable. I couldn't anymore because what I saw in my vision of my sisters and I in heaven was more beautiful than anything that I had ever seen in my entire life. It bring me tears to my eyes. And that's what I wanted.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's interesting because I'm sure there are people who will come across this watching, listening right now that have some kind of relationship that they have to understand that, let's say, pride is expensive. Mm. And for you to make that move, you created what you wanted to see, and that takes work. And a lot of folks miss that piece. It's like, hey, we want this amazing life, but chances are you're going to have to do a lot of the work when it comes to that. But you mentioned familiarity, and there was this debate I was, I guess, having with someone about that, how, let's say, dangerous comfort and familiarity could be. And I don't know, I said, hey, have you ever been in a relationship with somebody longer than you should have been? They were like, of course. Why? And there was kind of like not thinking, I was like, familiarity. Comfort was better than the unknown and all those things you just mentioned. So yeah. I really, really appreciate that. So you creating your miracle. Like, how can someone else do that? I know you've spoken to those things specifically, you know, a bit, but how can someone who's never written a vision, never drawn a vision, how can they, like, what can their 1-2 steps be to get, you know, their life on a better track, regardless of what they've been through?
Yeah. And I was going to tell you this at the end of the interview, but
bring it now.
You could go to my website. I have a free downloadable exercise, and it helps you create your 10-year vision. And it has worksheets. Yes, and it's the exact wording that was given to me when I created that vision that I just told you about. And I said it was going to happen. This particular vision was a 5-year, and I said it was going to happen in 5 years, and I had everything in 2 years. Everything, okay?
What's the website? I want to let them know that right now. What's the website? I know we'll talk more about it. We'll mention it again, but what's the website?
It's themasteryofmiracles.com. And
right.
Dan, you need to go there too, right after we're done talking.
I am going to go there. For sure. For sure. themasteryofmiracles.com. Amazing. And matter of fact, for those of you all listening, make sure you can go to stanpearson.com/Hazel-Ortega. That will also take you there also. And in the meantime, between time, I'll make sure that stays there on the ticker. We'll kind of bring that in and out. themasteryofmiracles.com. All right, cool. So you created this vision, and let's brag a little bit, okay? Now I want you to brag on you right now. What are you most proud of right now? Give me 3 to 5 things. You probably don't get asked this all the time, maybe never, but I want you to unapologetically brag about you. It can be about whatever.
Becoming financially successful is really great, breaking the legacy of poverty in my own family. I'm the first one to graduate from college. I'm the first millionaire in my family. I'm the first business owner, multiple businesses in my family. I was deathly afraid of public speaking, and I've spoken at the United Nations. I have friends all over the world, and I have found the love of my life. And so those are the things that I'm most proud of. And on top of that, I have a very healthy lifestyle with my family.
And all of that took work, which I just think is amazing. Do you think, does it feel better knowing that you've, worked hard and you played an active role in making life happen for you?
Definitely, because I know that I have the capacity to make anything I want happen in my life. If my sister had been the one to change, then I wouldn't know that if I had that in me to make my other relationships work. I know what I did. My sisters didn't do any work on themselves. I did it. And like Michael Jackson said, start with the man in the mirror. Growth, it's not just a song. So that's what I did. I started with the person in the mirror, and I started telling on myself, like all the dirty of myself. So what happens with us as human beings, we have this overwhelming need to look good. And when people come to us with their grievances, we explain away how we're so good anyway. They're complaining about us, how we made them feel. And here we go confirming we made you feel that way because we're right. And instead of being with the concern of the person that's in front of you and giving you their grievance, it could be employees, it could be people, it's mostly the people that matter to you. And the way I used to be was not that nice. I had comebacks. I could, somebody's telling me something, I did it 10 times back to them better than anybody because I came from a bad neighborhood. So I knew how to cap. I don't know if you remember this, when people cap on you.
Yeah. Oh, you had the best ones, huh?
Oh, I knew how to cap. Yeah. And I mean, I'd bring your mother down, your sister down with you. Like
the whole family can get the smoke.
Imagine this, okay? So what I tell people is we save the worst behavior for the people we love the most. Right? And I couldn't stand myself anymore. God, that's awful. It made me cry for many years, just thinking of all the injuries that I inflicted on the people that I love the most, my parents, my sisters, my brothers, like my daughter, my relationships, all because I want to look good, and it has a cost. Well, anyway, I started to work on all my relationships, and then I started to work on my integrity. And integrity is really important, right? Especially in business and in your finances. So how am I going to say that I want to be a millionaire and I'm negative in my bank account? So once you create a vision for yourself, when you're out of integrity, because you're acting, your vision and the way it is not in congruency, right? It doesn't match. So I ended up looking at my finances and I stopped bouncing checks. I started to save money. For the first time in my life, I saved $7,000 when I was 40 years old. Yeah, just like yesterday.
Yeah, it must have been. Millionaire overnight. Millionaire overnight.
Yeah. So I got this Dave Ramsey program. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him.
Of course. Yeah, Dave Ramsey. And
yeah. He's faith-based and he talks about budgeting. So first what I did was I got my budget together. I used to hate that word. I thought it meant like, very limiting.
Right.
Don't put baby on a budget.
You don't want to put baby in the corner. Say no more.
Yeah. And I got integrity around that, around finances. I learned about money. I learned about stock investments. And then I found a group of people, of women, who wanted to also learn how to budget and stop being paycheck to paycheck. And I started this group and we called it Mujeres Millonarias de Whittier. So millionaire women, right? And it was manifesting. We named it Millionaire Women. And honestly, when I gave that name to the group, some of the group members were very uncomfortable with the name. And they were like, we don't want to be millionaires. I'm like, it's just a game. We're just playing. Like so much pressure to say that you want to be a millionaire.
Right.
Right. I used to say that I didn't want to be a millionaire because I didn't want to do what it takes to be a millionaire. And my business coach asked me, well, what does it take to be a millionaire? Tell me. I said, well, they work long hours. They get up at 4 a.m. They go to sleep at midnight. They never see their families. They never go on vacation. They get divorced, right? I don't know where I got all of this lies from, but I did not even know one millionaire. And here I am telling myself all these lies about how they are and how they live. I had no idea. And I just know that growing up poor, my parents and my neighborhood taught me that the millionaires were bad people and they kept us down. And, I didn't take we didn't take personal responsibility for being poor. It was somebody else's fault. They have our money. We work and we do all the work and the owners take all the money,
It's so interesting. Thank you for sharing that too. I think sometimes when it comes to the personal responsibility piece, like so much of life isn't fair. And sometimes it feels, let's say that the game is rigged or, what am I? But ultimately, even I think it's even fair to say for someone who's had a really, really difficult life like yourself, that it's going to take you even more work than it's going to take somebody else. And that's the ultimate reality. Like anything else is opinion or thought or feelings, and all that's fair. But having to work harder than someone else isn't necessarily fair, but that's what it's going to take to get what it is that you want, need, desire. Golly, thank you for sharing all of that and the accountability piece. And you mentioned you went to a couple professional development seminars, obviously more recently, but even as you kind of started along on this journey, what would you tell people that are like, I don't want to spend money to go someplace. What advice would you give that person who is hesitant about spending money on themselves to develop?
I would say you definitely need to invest in yourself. Anytime that I have invested in myself, I have made more money than ever before. Right now with Joe Dispenza, he's going to make me a billionaire. Yeah. So invest in yourselves, get coaches. I had a coach that for a long time I showed up to all her free stuff. This is when I had my business in my garage. I started from my garage, okay? And I was, I was pretty street smart and I knew, the basics. I worked for other people, so I saw how they ran their businesses and I kind of had some common sense there, right? Well, my business made the same amount of money for 5 years. It wasn't until I hired a business coach that I was able to grow exponentially. I had to invest in that. After 5 years, my business coach was like, you need to pay. So you get back what you put in, right? I'll even tell you, remember I said that I was deathly afraid of public speaking?
For sure. Yep.
I went to Toastmasters and sat there for 3 years, never given a speech.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I was deathly afraid. And then finally the president and vice president are like, okay, we're going to do you a really big favor. We're volunteering you to speak. Voluntold.
Voluntold. That's the best kind.
And after that, I practiced and I put myself out there. And now that's what I do all day long, many times a day.
That's amazing. Hey, so what is I'll ask you one of my final questions, if you don't mind, and that is, what's some advice that you would give to young Hazel? And heck, maybe it's 16-year-old Hazel, or you pick an age in that. What advice would you give to the younger version of you?
Well, yeah, as I mentioned, I'm a psychologist now, and my company specializes in helping injured workers return to work via going back to school and then finding new careers, right? That's one of our businesses. And what I train my counselors to do is to identify strengths in people, and people don't believe them. When you tell people how great they are, they're like, no, that's not true. So what I would say, if I wished I had learned to believe what people told me about myself. All of it, because when they told me bad things about myself, I didn't believe it. I wish I did.
That's profound. That's profound. That's what
yeah, when people tell you something about yourself, believe them. Okay. So if somebody told me I was critical, judgmental, and nasty, I was not believing that. If anything, I said, that's you, it's not me. And then when people told me you're smart, you're capable, you can be anything you want to be, you can be rich, you can marry anybody, you can be treated well, I didn't believe that either. So I would believe what people are telling me. I would definitely spend more time seeking that truth, especially with I had mentors that really made a big difference for me in my life. And to this day, even though I have become successful in a lot of the areas of my life, I still have mentors. I still seek mentors out. And like right now, I even say like Jesus Christ is a mentor to me, and Oprah and J-Lo. Yeah. So like from Oprah, I learned how to make a difference in the world. And from J-Lo, I learned how to be a badass businesswoman. And with Jesus Christ, I learned how to love unconditionally. And so it's really important to get mentors, and you can get free mentors. You can do that exactly like what I do. I research online and I read everything that I can about them. And you can do the same thing if you don't have any money, but if you do have a little bit of money, coaching, training programs, personal development, and read books. Those are the things that will change your life. And you want to do the work. It does seem hard, like you can never get along with somebody that you can think of somebody right now that's really hard to get along with. You could absolutely get along with them by just creating a vision of the best case scenario with that person, and then you doing the work. And sometimes the work is not reacting, right? Right, like life is what do they say? 10% is is what happens, and 90% is your reaction to it. So react accordingly. So if somebody is giving you a compliment, accept it and be grateful for it. If somebody's coming at you, wanting to fight with you, it occurs to you that way, you can be grateful that, hey, this person, I matter so much to this person that they're coming at me like this. And so I'm gonna look for the love in this moment. You bring what's missing. Whatever is missing in any situation is what you're not putting in. So if love is missing, that's what I learned.
You're not messing around. You never do, obviously. But what you just said, you said, bring what's missing. whoever listens or is listening or comes across this, bring what's missing. That's platinum, gold, diamond. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that part. I may ask you one more question, but what are some final thoughts or words that you have, for anyone coming across this, or heck, for certainly women who feel like they may be experiencing a glass ceiling or held back, or Latinas that look like, hey, how can is there anything else? You've given so much already, but is there anything else that you would like to speak directly to them to help them get over the proverbial hump?
Yeah, well, I highly recommend working on your self-confidence. And we are all, we've achieved the things that we're not present to because we have maybe a warped perception of success. Like if you don't have the nice new car outside, then you're not successful. If you don't make the 6 figures or more, you're not successful. If you don't have a college degree, you're not successful. So then, especially with social media and all these influences that tell us what success is, you could feel like for me, if I'm with you and you have 20,000 followers and I have 5,000 followers, I could feel like, you're up on me for, So it can be an endless cycle of you feeling like you're not good enough. You're not winning the game. I make a badass list, like all the reasons why I'm a badass. Okay. And so I start with like the most smallest things. Like I got my high school diploma when I was 30, right? I'm a mom. Huh? That's badass. Okay. I gave birth.
I didn't.
Yes, I've taken care of my mother, my father, and uncles at their deathbed. And I put that on my list of who I am. I started my business. I've been in business for 16 years. I've had business partners. All of those things are on my list to the point I don't need a list anymore. But for people that are just coming out wondering, what's for them and is there more, then I think you already know there's more. You're just holding yourself back. So start to work on your confidence. Build your self-confidence. When you can build your self-confidence, you can take risks. You can, get out of the garage and into an office building. You can hire your first employee. You can hire your 5th employee. You can hire a business coach. You can invest in yourself. Build up your self-esteem. And then mindset, of course, your mindset evolves. So I started off with a poverty mindset, like I was destined to be poor for the rest of my life. And then that evolved as I grew my vision for myself and my confidence. And now I have a miracle mindset where anything is possible. Anything that my mind can create, I can have. And so that is something that I want everybody to be present to, that you can have all the miracles. You can master miracles in your life, just like I did. I want you guys all to have that too.
Awesome. Thank you so very much for being here. A couple things, folks. Make sure you go to themasteryofmiracles.com. I'm going there. Make sure you go there as well. Again, themasteryofmiracles.com. And where can they find your book? How can they get from bounce checks to private jets? How can they check your book? Yeah,
check out my book. It's on the same website, themasteryofmiracles.com. If you order it through the website, I'll personally sign it for you. If you can go to Amazon and get it there as well.
Don't do that. Don't go through the site, people. Go to themasteryofmiracles.com and autograph copies. Are you serious? Listen, this is why you all love me. Bringing folks like this, and amazing Hazel Ortega spending some time with us. And there are a number of different jewels that she shared with us. And I say that in the very literal sense, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially, a lot of different steps that you can take today based on what Hazel shared with us right now. So again, officially, thank you very much, Hazel, for spending this time. Hopefully we could do this again sometime. That would be great. Maybe a part 2. I don't know. See,
yeah, please invite me back.
Yeah, look forward to it. Hey, maybe someday when the world opens back up, be back in LA and connect. That would be also amazing.
I'd love that.
Awesome. Folks, thank you for being here. Thank you for investing some time in you and spending this time engaging this amazing interview with Hazel Ortega. We are not talking about being perfect talk about making progress. That being said, you must remember the effort on fire forever beats knowledge on ice. Continue to work and understanding that you're good, you're great, you're worth it. This is Stan Pearson, the second year here first. Have an amazing evening. Thank you again, Hazel. Talk to you soon. Peace.